So many people are turning to homesteading, and for good reason. The problem is that most people that say they want to start a homestead actually want something else. Welcome back to another video at the High Mountain Homestead, where we practice regenerative agriculture on a small scale. So homesteading has become so popular over the last few years. The interesting thing though is that homesteading is not really a fad. It's more like going back to our roots. So think 3 or 4 generations ago. What we call homesteading today, our great-grandparents or whatever just called it living a regular life. And I think that we as people have kind of noticed the gap in that of the past few generations, and that's why many people are turning back to it. We miss that connection with the earth, with our food, with animals. And I love it because it's caused people to come back to homesteading in droves. So I get the chance to talk to a lot of people about starting homesteads, get to pass on some advice of what I've learned, a lot of my mistakes. And what I find is that most people, when they say, hey, I want to do homesteading, and I ask them about their goals and what they want to do, they don't actually want to homestead. What they want to do is farm. So what's wrong with farming? Nothing's wrong with farming. The point is that it's different from homesteading. So what are the differences between homesteading and farming, and why does that even matter? The first thing you got to answer is, who are you feeding? Both homesteaders and farmers are, putting food on the table. The question is it your family's food or other families' food? And then there's the matter of money. Is your goal to make money or to save money? Not to paint in too broad of strokes, but for the most part, if you are doing this to try to not just supplement your income, but provide an income, that's farming. If your goal is to mostly save money, that's homesteading. And the real reason I'm making this video, and I'll share more about my personal story and the failures that I had early on in a minute, but the big reason why I wanted to make this video is because people who start off homesteading believing that they're actually going to be farming and making a profit, it sets you up for some big mistakes, some real hard months or years ahead in my case, where you work your butt off and find yourself spending a lot more money than you make, like exponentially more money than you make, and thinking, well, what the heck? And it's not until you realize, like, oh yeah, farming is a full-time job, and I'm not treating it like a full-time job because I can't. That's the difference. So why does that difference even matter? That difference really matters because when you have people that go into something thinking that there's going to be money there, but in reality it's a money suck and a time suck, that can really suck. Because homesteading isn't cheap. In fact, it's kind of the opposite of cheap. Getting started, at least. If you want animals, you don't have fences, you're going to need fences. Buying animals, caring for animals, feeding animals, all of that takes a lot of time and a lot of money, especially up front. Even if you don't want animals and all you want is to garden or have a little orchard, that takes a lot of time and energy and a little bit of money too. And then finally, there's a huge difference in time between homesteading and farming. Homesteading, for me at least, already feels like a part-time job, while farming is a full-time job and more. So anyone here watching with business experience knows that a business's goal, especially when it's getting started, is to provide an ROI. It's the path of making nothing to having a revenue and then hopefully having a profit. And that's really the difference. For me, at least, that was it. So my wife and I got into this with a really incorrect mindset that we could just start homesteading and we would have a bounteous crop. We would have so many lambs we wouldn't know what to do with. We would have so many eggs. We'd have so many vegetables to sell. We were doing rabbits. We were collecting manure from our rabbits to sell manure. We were composting. Oh, we tore apart our whole front lawn to do a no-till back to Eden style garden. I mean, it was ugly until we had stuff planted there. I mean, we did everything to basically maximize every inch because we wanted some revenue off of this. We had sunk so much of our time into it that we felt like we deserved revenue. And it became a very bittering experience because guess what? The money's not always there. And if you don't have time to treat it like a job or a business, you're not going to get the money out of it. And so that's why I like to set the record straight for all these people that say like, oh yeah, I want to do homesteading. I got land, so I just figure I'll put a few cows on the land, and when it comes harvest time, I'll collect the paycheck. It doesn't always work like that. for the most part, the homestead profitability thing isn't there for the first few years. So can you make money off of homesteading? Yes. And I hope you do make money off of homesteading, because this stuff is expensive. Fences are expensive. Animal feed is expensive. Building planter beds is expensive. Shoot, just the gas you put in your truck to go back and forth to the feed store or the hardware store a bazillion times in the summer. It's expensive and time intensive. These are precious things to you, so you should try to make money back off of that. If you raise a hog, half that hog goes in your freezer, the other half, sell it. If you have a surplus of eggs, sell the surplus of eggs. If you have a surplus of your lamb crop, especially if they're ewes and you don't have enough space to add more ewes to your pasture, sell the ewes as breeding stock. Okay, so finally, can homesteads turn into farms? Yes, and in fact, I think that's my favorite kind of farm. These small-scale farms, these hobby farms. One of the big keys in turning a homestead into a revenue-rich farm is adding multiple enterprises to it. So I'm just going to name a handful of these. This list could be doubled or tripled if I gave it a little bit more thought. The point is with a homestead, you can nail it and then scale it. So here they are. Laying hens, meat chicken, pigs, having ruminants, like a cow, a sheep, or a goat, either for meat or dairy. Vegetable garden, honey, local raw honey, orchards or other perennials, compost or manure, agritourism, like a farm tour or a pumpkin patch during the fall. Or finally, value-added products. For example, like, let's say you raise ducks. Duck eggs are amazing in baked goods. Another good example of that is you've got goats, you milk the goats and you make soap, goat milk soap. Really, this list is limited only by your imagination and what you have passion for. That's why I love homesteading on a small scale. That's why I like this, because it's regenerative. Multiple enterprises is a key factor of regenerative agriculture, where you've got, chickens and hogs and sheep rotating. You've got vegetable gardens that you rotate your animals in and out of to fertilize it. These enterprises that stack on each other, and not only do they not get in the way of each other, but they add into an ecosystem. I love the idea of stacking systems, and the homestead is such a great way to prove the regenerative model, because it forces you to get the most out of a small scale. If you're on a homestead, you probably don't have, a bazillion acres. You could get away with very small acreage, with even less than an acre, doing a lot of homestead things, or anywhere up to 10 acres. You can really stretch that to get a lot of homesteading out of it. While talking about that, I gotta bring up this book, the Backyard Homestead. I read this book years ago, and it's captured my heart. I reread it at least every year. It is constantly on either my bedside table or my wife's bedside table. It's a great read from front to back, but it also serves as a really good encyclopedia and information for different enterprises to have on your homestead. So, quick caveat, they don't know I'm promoting this. This is a pure natural endorsement for these guys. Anyway, it's a great book. If you're new to homesteading, or if you're a longtime homesteader, there's something in this book that you didn't know. Even just the vegetable garden tips alone make it a fabulous book. And then there's a lot of stuff about fences and animals and orchards and just everything else in there. So truly a fantastic book. A lot of times people ask me, what can I do to support your channel? I'm going to put a link to this book in the description. If you buy it from that link, I get a small percentage of that, so that's appreciated. If you don't buy this book, like the video. That's another great way to support me, mostly because I'm egotistical and I like likes. It feels good in our hearts. So if you watch all that and you're still like, yes, I want to do homesteading, I just want to say you are participating in something that is really great, that the world really needs right now. And I did a video a few months back about just all the problems wrong with traditional or conventional agriculture. As a homesteader, you're really helping fight that. If you're not informed or you haven't seen that video, I suggest you watch it and put a lot of hours into research into that one. Thanks for stopping by the channel today, and I'll see you on the next video at the High Mountain Homestead.